Good night, everybody. We are back. Just like that, we are back. Good night, everybody. We are back. Just like that, we are back. Good night, everybody. So, thank you for joining Murphy's Law podcast. And you're going to see me in a second. There we go. All right. How's everybody doing? We are back. I missed you all. This is the Murphy's Law podcast. Let's apply wisdom. It's so good to see you. Hey, I'm going to ask you, can you please share this broadcast? You're here right now on Facebook Live, on YouTube. Please share it. And if you do not follow us or have not subscribed to the page on YouTube, please subscribe to the page. YouTube, and just search at Murphy's Law Podcast and subscribe. And so I need you all to subscribe. We need to get the subscriptions up. We want as many people to see this, to hear this. Murphy's Law is a Christian podcast, it's a faith based podcast. And all that we want, all that I want, is for everybody to hear about how we can apply wisdom to get Jesus to be healed, our relationships, us as individuals to get better. That's what I want. And so I'm asking you to share so that everybody can hear it. As many people can hear it, as many people can get a chance to grow, to apply wisdom. So good night to everybody that's joining. I would love to know where you're joining me from and what are you doing. It's a new time, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's different, but I'm excited about everything that's going to happen. I'm excited about all the things that we're going to discuss this season. I'm excited about all the guests that will be with me this season. I'm excited about all the growth that'll happen this season. I'm excited about all of that. So it's really, really good to be back. A lot has happened since we've seen each other. A lot has happened in my life. A lot is about to happen in my life. And a lot of stuff is happening in your life too. And a lot of stuff is about to happen in your life. And I pray that it's all well. So it's good to be back together again. It's good to be hearing my voice going out to the masses. So we're going to dive into this series, season 6, episode 1. We are absolutely talking about effective communication. So the topic for tonight is, can we talk? Again, please share this live, share this broadcast, share it on Facebook, share it on YouTube, and then you can subscribe to Murphy's Law Podcast on Spotify and anywhere that you get your podcast. We're going to be there as well. And so, again, the goal is to make sure that we reach as many people as possible. Like the page. If you're first time visiting, thank you. If you're first time joining, thank you. Like the page, please. Like the page and subscribe so that we can get as many people to hear about all that we'll discuss. So let's talk about communication. Are you ready? I'm ready. So let's do it. Let's do it. So, can we talk? One of the things that I have realized in our time away and just in living life, I've realized that our relationships are out of whack in many aspects, in many regards. Families are disconnected, marriages are messed up, parents, fathers, sons, mothers, daughters, across the board, business partners, cheating business partners, just relationships across the board are messed up. And one of the greatest deficiencies I see and have observed in our relationships is the lack of effective communication. We lack the ability to communicate effectively. And the truth of the matter is, if we do not know how to communicate effectively, we are not going to accomplish anything. Society as we know it will always be in conflict, will always be divided. I don't care what country, I don't care the nationality, I don't care whatever it is. If we don't learn how to come together and communicate effectively and understand what effective communication is, we're going to have a hard time progressing. And so, as a result, here we are. Here we are talking about effective communication. So it's firstly important to understand that for our families to be okay, for our families to be well, for our society to be good, we have to learn how to communicate effectively. Most people only think of communication from the aspect of when I talk, when I'm speaking, but communication really goes past that. Communication is more than that. It it involves a lot more than you just speaking, than you just saying something. Okay. And so we are going to talk about these effective ways of communication. Now, let's talk about the individual because this is Murphy's Law. It's about applying wisdom. Let's talk about us as individuals. Communication, becoming better, is going to start with each of us as individuals first. We have to take responsibility for us. I got to take responsibility for me. I can't leave it up to anybody else. It starts with me. Good night, everyone that's joining. Thank you. Welcome to the Murphy's Law podcast. Please share this and let others know you are in the podcast. And we're talking about effective communication. Can we talk? Is communication all about talking? Is that what it is? So, back to the point, individually, we have to take the responsibility. We have to take the onus and say, you know what? I have to work on me to make sure that I can communicate effectively. Now, there's something I want to talk about for a few minutes. We're going to touch it and then we're going to move on. But it's really a vital part of communication, and that's our consciousness. Yes, I said it, our consciousness. Now, we have three tiers of our consciousness. We have conscious, we have unconscious, and we have subconscious. So, plainly stating, the conscious is what we're aware of, what we can observe, what we can be attentive to. And then we have the unconscious. Unconscious is something that you do, a habit that you may have that's happening, but you are unaware of it. And others can see it, but you are unaware. That's second tier. Then the third tier is the subconscious. That goes deeper in the mind. And that's where you have things going on that you are unaware of that's controlling you unconsciously and moving over into the conscious. Now, we're going to have a separate Murphy's Law episode about our different tiers of consciousness and how that affects us. But the reason I'm bringing that up is because everything we do really comes from our consciousness, from a level of our consciousness. So it's never a point where you are just functioning, by yourself or by chance. Everything is connected to either your subconscious, your unconscious, moving into your conscious. Some of us have worked on ourselves. Some of us are mature enough. Some of us have mentors that have trained us to understand where we are unconscious of things to make us aware of it so that we can adjust our behaviors, our functions, how we are effective in our everyday life and everyday relationships. And I want to tell you, dealing with the subconscious are the deeper levels of your mind. You don't ever want to do that without Jesus. I'm just putting it out there, plainly stating. You don't ever want to get into the depths of that realm without Jesus, to become aware of what's really going on that I don't even know. And this is where triggers and things like that come from. So I mentioned all of that to say we must be aware of ourselves so that we can come into effectively communicating. Many people think communication is just about saying what you want to say. It's just about getting the message across. It's just about being right. And communication is much more than that. And I've seen where we have so missed what communication is that it has completely destroyed different areas and aspects of who we are. Marriages have been destroyed, friendships, relationships, business partnerships, so many things, countries, wars have even started, all because we do not know how to effectively communicate. And if you want to see your life be better, if you want to see everybody around you be better, if you want to see this world be better, it's going to start with effective communication. So let's talk about what effective communication is. Very often, very often, people communicate from a speaking perspective. They communicate with the mindset that I want to be right. And if you come into communication with that mindset, this is just from the aspect of speaking now or communicating a message. If you come into any conversation with my point is or my goal is to be right, you've already failed at communication. The most important thing, or one of the most important things about communicating effectively, is so that you can come to an understanding. I'll say it again. The most important thing about communication and effective communication is you coming to an understanding, you and the individual. So, what that means is that sometimes you may have to have more than one conversation. Good night to everybody that's joining. I love you all. Thank you for joining Murphy's Law. Please share, and I encourage your interaction and comments. I'll make mention to it as much as I can. We're talking about effective communication tools. If we are going to start off right with communicating, then it can't be just okay. Well, I'm coming to this conversation, and I know what I'm about to say is right. I know what I want to share is right. If you approach it that way, you're already at a deficit. You're already behind the eight ball, because communication is about everybody coming into an understanding, which then means that communication requires patience. Effective communication requires humility. Effective communication requires love. Effective communication requires understanding. Even if you are frustrated, even if you are upset, all of these elements must be present so that you can communicate effectively, so that you can come to an understanding. Some people are very mature and they understand how to communicate, and you can come to an understanding quickly. Some people are not as mature, and it may not always be totally their fault. They may not have been in environments that taught them to communicate effectively. Let's understand this. Effective communication is a skill, and it's an art that must be taught. Communication in its totality is an art, it's a skill that must be taught. Nobody knows how to effectively communicate without being taught how to do so, without being taught the parameters of communication, the standards of effective communication. So if you always think you know it and got it together, that may not be so good. And all of us forever will always be learning. And some of us have learned more than others because some of us have committed to the process of growing. So don't come into communication saying, okay, I want to be right. The goal is to come into an understanding, or everyone to have an understanding. Now, what that with that being said, what you are coming to give or say could possibly be right. But that is still less important than coming to an understanding and effectively getting the message to whoever you're communicating with. Because what's the point of being right and then you just walk away? You said what you said and you feel good about it because just you're intelligent and you know a lot of stuff, but then the other individual still doesn't have an understanding and is probably at a greater disadvantage after the conversation than before. And this is in every relationship: parent, child, spouse, business, friend, family. This goes across the board for every single relationship. So, the goal of effective communication is for understanding to come. You don't communicate to be right. Even if what you're communicating may be right, you don't communicate to be right. You communicate so that understanding can come. That's the most important thing about communication. And too often we go into conversations saying, I want to be right. What I think, what I feel, I just want to be right. And what you end up having is not a healthy dialogue or conversation. You have two people competing. And we're not even at a sports event, but you're competing. And what are you competing to be? Right. And that is really fueled, that wanting to be right can be fueled, I should say, from insecurities that may be there, or also not understanding how to properly communicate. If you have not yet shared this, please do. And wherever you're joining, Facebook or YouTube, please share it. Please share it. And if you're not following us on YouTube, we need you to. So if you have not subscribed, after this, go to YouTube. At Murphy's Law Podcast is what you're going to search and subscribe. Okay. So let's talk about the totality of communication. Now, communication is speaking, it is also listening. Yeah, that's a part of communication. And so the art of listening, which we're going to talk about for a little bit, is very, very important. I'm going to give you some statistics here, and it might blow your mind away. 55% of communication, listen to this, 55% of communication is nonverbal. So in communication, only 7% relies or depends on what we say. 38% depends on how we say it, and 55% depends on what we are doing when we say it. So a larger portion of effective communication isn't even what you're saying. And so again, just coming in to be right is not going to help. You're not going to come to the end that you want to get to just because you want to be right. So the totality of effective communication has to do not only with what you're saying, but how you're saying it. You can't be a person, and I don't encourage anyone to be the type of person that just says, oh, I just got to get it out. However it comes out is however it comes out. However I say it is however I say it. However you get it is however you get it. Then you fail at communication. Now your marriage is in shambles. Now your marriage can't get back together. Now your child don't like you and resent you even more. Now your business partner don't want to continue in business with you. He wants to dissolve the business. Now your friend thinks you're a cuckoo bird and you're crazy and you're selfish and you're abrasive. So how you say a thing matters. And if you don't say it correctly to give understanding, you're going to mess up the whole message. So you have to come into communicating with great humility. All right. So 55% of our communication depends on what we're doing. So what does that mean? Okay. Let's talk about it some more. Proper listening skills. Listen to this. Proper listening skills are a part of effective communication. So, effective communication is not only dependent on who is speaking, but it's also dependent on who is receiving. So, for communication to be effective, both parties have to be in the right mindset, in the right attitude, in the right disposition. It can't just be the person who is saying it, they're watching how they say it, their approach, they're paying attention to it, and then you as the receiver, you're just sitting down there like whatever. So a part of your job as the receiver of information is to make sure that your body posture is unassuming, it's not defensive. You ever seen somebody that they take on a posture that tries to be intimidating? They're trying to intimidate you. What are you doing? What's happening right now? First of all, nobody's afraid of you. Nobody at all is afraid of you. You probably can't fight. So let's calm down. Let's stop the craziness and let's have a very assuming or approachable posture. So if someone is speaking to me, my posture needs to be relaxed. Then another part of listening is my facial expressions. What is my face saying? Remember, 55% of communication is nonverbal, and that's for both parties, who's speaking and who's receiving. So everybody has a part to play in this. And I promise you, this is going to help your relationships. This is going to help your interactions. This is going to help you. And each of us becoming healthy, each of us becoming more aware of what we're doing and conscious of how we're talking and communicating. It's going to make our families be better. It's going to make our relationships be better, and the world will be a better place. I'm telling you, it's a trickle down effect. So, as you're listening, your body posture is important, your body language is important. You can't do, you shouldn't do things like, you're shrugging your shoulders, or what I call sound effects. Mm-hmm. Yeah, whatever. You're mumbling. That's a sign of immaturity, and that's ineffective communication. You're not even in a position to come to an understanding, which is why we're having conversation in the first place. So your body posture, your body language, your facial expressions, the sounds, your engagement matters. If you're talking to me, if I'm doing this podcast right now, and those of you that can see me live and the video is going, I'm talking to you, but my back is turned and I'm looking over there and I'm looking to the left and I'm looking to the right and I'm distracted and I'm moving, that's going to throw you off. You're probably going to shut the live off. You're going to log out of Facebook and you're going to go to sleep because I'm not giving you what you deserve so that an understanding can be arrived to. So when, as the recipient, you have to be engaged properly. You're looking. You may want to say, okay, I understand. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Okay. You want to have a pleasant look on your face. All of these things matter in communication because so many people have been damaged that if you give them the wrong body language, that can cause them to shut down. Now, there are some people who are mature enough that can look past your immaturity and still give the message or still have the conversation, but everybody's not there. So I'll give an example. As a parent, your child, whether they're a teenager or adolescent or even early adulthood, right? Your child may still deal with insecurities or traumas, and they may not be so safe talking with you, speaking with you. And it may be a very big deal to them that they're coming to have this conversation with their parent. They want to come and have an understanding, get a resolve, and here you are giving them all these type of disrespectful tones and approaches as the recipient of the message. That's going to cause them to shut down. How then can your relationship be restored with your child, with your parent, with your spouse, with whoever? So everybody has a part to play, the listener and the speaker. So be engaged, be pleasant, because that matters. Now, as the speaker, you absolutely want to be aware of how you are presenting the message, whether you are right or wrong. We're not focusing on that yet. We'll get to that in about 3 minutes. So presenting it properly matters. You can't have outbursts. You can't have hostility and expect for a positive and constructive conversation to happen. So if you are an individual that prides yourself on saying, you just gonna get it how you get it, I encourage you to change that mindset today. You may be the reason that all your relationships are destroyed, that all of your relationships are dysfunctional. You may be the reason because you are abrasive, you are disrespectful, you are not considerate, you are selfish. Communication is a very unselfish act. I'll say it again. Communication, both speaking and listening, is a unselfish act. I'm listening for you to be well, to give the message, and for us to come to an understanding. You are giving the message for me and for us to come to an understanding. So, in communication, we are really not thinking about ourselves. We're thinking about the other person that we are in communication with or people. This is true, effective communication. Not all of this yelling, screaming, arrogant stuff. Wherever there's not safety, trust is going to be absent, security is going to be absent. So you must know and be aware of and be conscious of the type of environment you're creating when you communicate. We communicate every day. And some of us may be unconscious to how inappropriately we communicate. Someone asks you a question, you answer what you want to answer, not what they asked you. Someone is talking to you, you're doing 15 things while they're talking to you. All of these things are inappropriate and really are dishonorable and disrespectful to the person that is speaking to you or communicating with you. Now, to the matter of whether you are right or wrong, everybody comes into communication, right? Or many people think that they're right. But here's the thing, if you approach every conversation with the mindset that I want to get an understanding, many times you'll find out that what you thought you were so right about and so adamant about, you're going to find out, oh, I was wrong. Or, oh, I was off in this area. Or I was off in that aspect. That's what happens when you approach conversation, communication with the mindset of, I'm coming here to get an understanding, for us to come to an understanding. And truth is going to prevail. That's what communication is about, so we can move in truth. And so if we open ourselves to be understanding and to give an understanding, then truth will prevail. So arrogance is going to destroy and hinder effective communication. You don't know it all. You don't know it all. I'll say it again. You don't know it all. None of us do. So if you have the right humility and approach, I promise you will adults. We can move past the difficult circumstances much quicker than have, or if ever at all. Husbands, you're not always right. Wives, you're not always right. Parents, you're not always right. Children, you're not always right. You are not always right. And the more humble you are and approach it with, okay, I want to get an understanding, is the more you'll see that, okay, I have room to grow, I have room to learn. Okay? We're talking about effective communication. It's not only speaking, it's also listening. A couple more things I'll mention, and then we'll conclude episode 1. We're back, y'all. Season 6, episode 1. I'm so excited. I've missed all of you. Life is amazing. Okay. So I told you this already, but don't communicate to be right, even though what you're communicating may be right. You want to approach it with coming to an understanding. This also is very important as a speaker. No one can read your mind, so say all of what you are thinking. Get it all out of here in your mind and get it to come through your lips. Now, this is something that I have been guilty of and I still work at daily, is to make sure that I'm completing the full thought, because I may be doing something and something may pop up in my mind and I start the conversation in the middle of my thought. And the other person is like, I don't know what you're talking about. So no one can read your mind. So say everything. Say the full thought, the full sentence. Why? So that you can have understanding. That's what we're trying to get to, right? Yeah. One of the greatest hindrances to effective communication is assumption. Hear me and hear me real good, please. If you practice to assume, you are a horrible communicator. If you practice to assume, you are a horrible communicator. And it's possible that you make communication difficult for others. So do not assume. You are not the other person. You don't know what they are feeling. You don't know what they are thinking. And even if you know them well, you have to give them the opportunity to speak. Even if they have a track record or a history, you must give them the opportunity to speak. But assumption as a listener and as a speaker is going to cause for non-effect in communication. So don't ever assume. Don't ever assume they understand. Don't ever assume that they got it. Don't ever assume at all in any respect. Don't assume. Can we agree to not assume ever? Let's cut out assumption. Assumption creates false expectations, creates contention, it creates conflict that's unnecessary. And now you're getting divorced over an assumption, over a conversation that you guys didn't even have, that was so simple to resolve. Now the family is in malice. Half the family don't talk to the other half of the family. Now you have a friend that you're not talking to for a year, 6 months, whatever, because of assumption. And assumptions create false realities or falsehood because you're moving off of what is unknown. Why do that when you can get the truth? Why do that when you can get clarity? Why do that when you can get understanding? So these are the things that we do daily. Some of us, right? We do on a daily basis and we're not even aware of it. We are unconscious to how we assume. We are unconscious to how we have broken communication, and broken communication will always lead to broken relationships. You show me a relationship that's healthy, that has broken communication. And I'll tell you right now, it's a facade. They're pretending. They're putting on a show. So here's my plea to everybody. Be humble. When you go into having conversations, make sure that your goal is to get an understanding. You'll be surprised how much you can accomplish when you have an understanding, when you are on the same page. You can even resolve a conflict the quicker you come into understanding where each individual is. Now we know how to work. Now we know what to speak to, or now we know what to work at, what strategy to implement, because we have an understanding. Not, again, the goal is not to be right. Even though you may be right, you still have to approach it integrally. This is what Jesus taught. And these are the communication systems we see with God, with Jesus, with Holy Spirit. Again, this is Murphy's Law Podcast. We come together to apply wisdom. And that's what we want to do. And hear my heart for about a minute. I want as many people to hear this. I'm going to be 40 years old this year, and I'm learning every day more and more that my life and the circumstances of my life have caused me to create really bad habits and develop insecurities that have really hindered me. And I have hurt people. I've taken advantage of people. I've lied to people. I have misused people. I've disrespected people. I've dishonored people consciously, subconsciously, unconsciously. I've done all of these things. And one of the things I realized is that my communication has been off. I have previously wanted to communicate selfishly. I've only wanted to be right. I've only wanted you to see my point and to see what I'm saying. I've been selfish. And so the truth is that many of my relationships and friendships and all of that should be further than where they are, should have been better, or should have been farther along at this point. And I don't want to live another day helping to continue the dysfunction, helping to continue what's broken. I want to help us heal individually, and then as it spreads in whatever relationships we are in. I want to help us heal. I want to help us be whole. I want to help us be effective. I want to help us be healthy. And you can help me by letting as many people know. All I'm asking you to do is share it. Share the video. Go on YouTube, subscribe, tell somebody else. When you're talking to them, say, I heard this guy talking about effective communication. Have you ever heard of Murphy's Law podcast? Go check him out. Subscribe to him on YouTube. Go on Facebook. Follow him on Instagram. See what he is going on. It's for all of our benefits. And I want as many people to be helped. That's my passion. That's my goal for Murphy's Law podcast. That's it. I want everybody to be healed. I know what it's like to live broken. I know what it's like to live led by insecurities. I know what it's like to live dysfunctionally. And thank God I've had experiences and mentors and a counselor to help me grow and to help me come into maturity. I thank God for that. And now I want to help you, because it's better on this side. It's better living free of insecurities. It's better living unselfishly. It's better living from love. It's better living healthily. It's better. And it's what God wants for all of us. So I'm asking you to please subscribe, share, talk about it with your friends, with your coworkers, with your family. The tips that you get, implement them, apply wisdom so that we can get healed, so that we can be better. That's my heart. And that's what I would love. So we have some tools tonight, and we got some tools about effective communication. Get rid of all your hostility, get rid of your arrogance, get rid of your thinking you know it all, get rid of your abrasiveness, get rid of your rudeness, get rid of the disrespect, get rid of the immaturity. Please give it 1 week. Let's start out with 1 week. I promise you, you're going to see results immediately. And then let's let it go into 2 weeks. Well, I guess we should start at 1 day, right? So let's start at 1 day. And then let's go into 2 days where we're coming into communicating with the other person in mind. I want to understand you. And then once we get an understanding, now it's easy for us to go and see whether our understanding lines up with truth or not. But it's really hard to get to truth when you want to be right, when you want to be difficult. It's not going to work. So can we talk? Sure, we can. Every relationship should have constant communication. It should never be, "Well, I don't feel like talking. I don't want to talk. I can't be bothered." And every day, communication should be constant. Every day, communication should be ongoing. Every day, communication should happen. Effective communication. How are you doing today? How are you feeling today? Can I tell you what happened yesterday that I didn't like? You did this and it makes me feel this way. Is this the case? When you said that, it made me think this. And when I thought that, it made me feel this. Is this true understanding? Even though somebody may have said something that made you feel a certain way, doesn't mean that that's what they were attempting to do. So get an understanding so we can arrive to truth, so we can arrive to healthy relationships. I'm telling you, I appreciate every single one of you that have joined me at this new time for Murphy's Law podcast, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I thank you so much. You could be in your bed, you could be asleep, and choose to watch it tomorrow, but you came and you hung out with me, you talked with me, you showed me support, and I love you for that. I love you. I appreciate you so much. Please follow on Instagram, Murphy's Law _ podcast. Please subscribe to the YouTube page channel. It's at Murphy's Law Podcast. And of course, here on Facebook, Murphy's Law. I love everybody. I love all of you. Thank you all for being who you are. Thank you for committing to growing. I encourage you to let's apply wisdom. You can always donate to Murphy's Law, to this podcast, and to the growth of the podcast at Cash App, Murphy's Law, money sign Murphy's Law podcast. You can do that. You can always send me a comment, send me even topics that you want to hear discussed. You can do that. I'm open to that. We're going to talk about a lot. We're going to have guests this season. We're going to talk about anger. We're going to talk about marriage, communication in marriage, communication between parents, communication between siblings is going to be awesome. This season is going to be awesome. I have some really great things happening for me, and I'm excited about it. And I believe that great things are happening for you as well. And I'm excited for you. We can get to healthy living. So until we meet next Wednesday, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, tell somebody about it. Let's apply wisdom. Thank you, you all. Have a great night. I appreciate every single one of you. Bye bye.